Hi, welcome to Live and Local, a talk show discussing the people, organizations, and issues affecting the Iowa City area. My name is Brian McConnell, and I'm your host. Today, we are with Stu Mullins with United Action for Youth. Sorry about that, Stu.
Correct answer.
Why don't you just start by telling a little bit about what you do there and what your role is?
I'm the Youth Center Coordinator. It's my title. I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades there. I've been there 25 years, almost to my 26th. UAY has been around since 1970, so I've been there through a good chunk, especially during a lot of our big growth period. I run the Youth Center. We have a Youth Center in downtown Iowa City, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. I oversee all of our youth development programs that we'll probably get into detail. Go to a fair amount of meetings in the morning and do a lot of this sort of public speaking and talking about UAY as well. I also coordinate all of our volunteers and a few other things, and still do a lot of direct service with young people as well.
Okay, so you said it started in 1970. Tell us a little bit about the history, how it got started.
It was funded initially by a community initiative of some community members who had an interest in helping with street school type of programming and connecting with young people that were hanging out in Iowa City. And then it grew into a little more organized nonprofit as the years went by. And then we moved to our two houses in the sort of mid-'80s on, one house on Iowa Avenue. And then we bought the second house next door to that in around, I think, probably 1990. And then we built the new youth center, and that's kitty corner under the Clock Tower Park ramp. We built that in 2005. So, it was a community sort of initiative of interested people in connecting with young people. It was a grassroots thing originally. Yep.
Is this at all affiliated with any national networks, or is this all just fairly local?
We're funded by state, federal, local grants, so we have collaborations of all sorts. We're not a national organization, say like Big Brothers Big Sisters or something that has a national-wide connection, and you might have a local piece. No, we're not a national. We're a local, homegrown nonprofit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Before we get into some of the details of the programs, just reading through, you have quite a diverse and broad programming. What's your staff comprised of?
As in, like, what their backgrounds,
how many
maybe?
people, their backgrounds?
Oh, we might, depending on funding, that vacillates, in waves and phases. We might have a staff of 30 full-time people doing a variety of things that we'll probably discuss as we go along. And then we'll have a group of volunteers, of course, from the community. And then we have a group of work-study people from the university who do receptioning and maybe some other sorts of things. And then some part-timers as well. And we usually have 3, 4 to 5 AmeriCorps employees as well. But our full-time staff, if that's of interest, would be social workers. They would be undergraduate degrees in social work or masters in social work. Our therapists would have, masters in family therapy or art therapy, those sorts of things. Some really amazing people who have education, but they're just huge hearts and creative. Yeah.
So when I was reading through that, you obviously work with the children, but you also work with parents.
Yep. Yes. So we work primarily with junior high and high school youth in a variety of different capacities. But we have connections through our work with young people with parents, or the parents might be coming to get service. And a lot of the parent involvement would be in our therapy programs or counseling programs. Say we have a young person who has something going on and that's really centered around the family. It's a family dynamic struggle, or they would like additional support with parenting techniques, that kind of thing. So they might request to do counseling through that. Or there's, sometimes we'll do parenting classes in the past, that kind of thing. We also do a pretty detailed teen parent program and a big scope teen parent program. So those are young parents. Some of them are what you might consider adults in the sense of they're over 21 or something like that. But the parents in the community are mostly engaged with us through our counseling and therapy programs. Occasionally I see parents a fair amount that are of youth center participants that come in a lot. I might have connection with them, but I wouldn't see them on a regular basis particularly. Parents are also connected with our academic mentoring program youth, the youth that we work with inside the school district, sort of to help coordinate how their young person's doing with their academic success.
Do you want to just dive into some of the specific services?
You bet. Well, we divide them loosely in 3 categories. We have youth development programs, we have counseling and therapy programs, and we have teen parent and transitional living program. Those 2 sort of go together. Maybe I'll save the youth development to the last, since I spend a lot of time in that, and that might be the wordiest.
Sure.
Our counseling and therapy programs, we have usually on staff we'll have 3 or 4 full-time therapists on staff. And again, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we have really, not only are they educated and trained, but they're just really skilled with young people. It tends to be our niche. We try to find people who not only have the skills they need to do it from a professional standpoint, but they happen to be really good at building rapport with young people. So our staff have lots of experience directly with getting to know young people. You know, I've always sort of felt, from my experience, that you and I, if we go to do therapy, I think we would like anonymity, probably, that kind of thing. I think young people, not always, but in general, they tend to, if they're going to deal with an adult, they kind of like to trust them and know them. They want to build trust with them. So I think our staff are just really skilled at building relationships with young people and making them feel safe, or helping them feel safe and respected. So they also, those staff have some unique skill sets actually as well. We have ones that are really have experience with play therapy or art therapy, which is a really good tool for connecting and working with young people around their feelings. Also they have a lot of experience with working with victims of crime and victims of abuse, or those sorts of things. So, you know, if you have something really heavy and serious like that, our staff just have a real comfort and a real high experience with those things. And can help young people progress into a place where they're feeling healthier. And
what are the age ranges that you work with?
Primarily it's junior high and high school, that sort of 12 to 18 range, although we will work up to 23. Some of the young parents that we work with are up to 23 years of age as well. Most of our programs, though, it's that sort of 15 to 16, 13, 14 range. And then I'll touch on some of the programs and they vary in age. But let's see. So then I was going to talk about our transitional living program. We have a couple of apartments in town where, sometimes a young person, doesn't have a place to live, but they also could use a support network as well. So the combination of those 2 things is something we try to provide. So our caseworkers, they would begin to be like social workers. They would be undergraduates in social work or masters in social work, and skilled at helping young people everything from know what benefits they might be eligible for, and help them get signed up for those things, make sure they're enrolled in school, and help them monitor their school, or if they're a little older, their college. Help them with parenting techniques, help them learn how to do positive discipline, or how to, even something as simple as have a cooking group and how to cook healthy for your family. So our transitional living program helps teach those skills and actually have a place for them to be. That often works in tandem or very closely with our teen parent program, which has more kids, far more kids. But not all the people in transitional living program are teen parents, but many are traditionally.
The traditional or transitional is not like emergency housing or anything like that.
It's not emergency housing. Sometimes there's a waiting list, and there's a qualification process and application, that kind of thing. So sometimes they can get you in fairly quick if there's an opening, that kind of thing. But they want good candidates, want people who have need but have a high probability of being successful and successfully completing the program and moving out on their own. Our teen parent program, again, it's very similar in that each of the young parents has a caseworker that will go into the home, work on parenting, skills training, just the nuts and bolts. Those of us all that have raised kids, we didn't realize all the things we needed to know. And some people don't have those, either the support network, or they hadn't sort of had the experience in their life to get them to where they need to be. And especially, I was 30 when I had my first kid, and I had worked at UAY for quite a while. I had pretty decent skills, and it was still the hardest thing I'd ever done, let alone if you were, 16 or something and may not have the support network you need for that, or the experience. So that's where the caseworker comes in. They go out to the home and help out with what you need to know. How do you change a diaper, even when you're pregnant? How do you take care of your body and keep yourself healthy? Let me help you take you to your doctor's appointment so we can make sure that gets on time. When's your next one? Let's get that scheduled. All the sort of nuts and bolts of the support of being healthy and ready to go when you're a parent. As well as they also have a support group. There's a couple of support groups where the teen parents come into to UAY, and we provide childcare while they're there at the support group with volunteers and staff. And it's very much like a traditional support group in the sense that they can share their struggles and their concerns and their successes, and then get support from peers, people who are going through the same thing, as well as staff can give input as well. So that's a little bit of an overview. We have some and I'll talk more about my work in particular, but we have some satellite programs. We work with Latino youth and families in West Liberty, Iowa, doing sort of a mini version of what we do at UAY. Our worker out there is doing all kinds of support work with academics and family support. I do a little youth center in Solon. We do outreach to Clear Creek and do health education programs at Clear Creek and different rural schools. So there's a fair amount of things we do outside of Iowa City, but the bulk of things are in Iowa City, Coralville.
I think I saw Liberty. Nearly 3,000 people each year.
Yeah,
served.
That's a fairly normal number. Yeah,
Okay.
A lot. The bulk are going to be young people, and then a few hundred parents as well. And that vacillates again year to year. Funding's been challenging, like everybody with the economy. So the staff has shrunk a little bit over the years. It's been years when our bulletin board of staff are really full, and then other years where it's a little bit less. And so that there's kind of an ebb and flow with that. But yeah, it's usually around that 25 to 3,000. And then I do, a lot of the programs I see are based on sort of that combination of, through our counseling, teen parent programs, we're, helping kids when they're sort of at a little more critical need. And then our youth development programs are addressing those things, but they're also supporting young people to help them thrive when things aren't as in crisis. The beauty of our programs is that we can sort of self-refer, super easy. So when I know a kid at, say, the youth center, and I've built rapport through, say, doing the arts with them, and they trust me, as I was talking about earlier, when something comes up in their life, they're ready to talk to me and let me know, and then I can say, that's serious enough, let's get you hooked up across the street with a counselor. Is that something you'd be up for? It's a real easy referral. I can just walk over and meet somebody and say, what do you think? Would this be of help? And we're sort of ready to go. Conversely, if one of our therapists is working with a kid that, say, has some struggles with, let's say they have social anxiety or something, or they just need positive use of time, or they need to make friends to feel more supported in life and happier, they can refer them to the youth center. We can get them ingrained in the activities we're doing there and giving them opportunities to succeed that way. So we have a youth center that's downtown. It's it's kind of akin to like a rec center, except it's based around the arts. So we'll have, depending on the busyness of the day, we'll have 2 or 3, 4 staff and volunteer around, interacting with kids in our drop-in program, maybe watching a movie or chatting or playing a game, that kind of thing. We have a music recording studio that's very nice and been around for a long time. That's how I actually came to UAY, was setting up music programming back at the end of college. And so kids can reserve studio time and work with us in writing music or recording music, or take lessons or just jam or that kind of thing, or learn how to run the technology, very much like this place, Then we have an art studio, a visual art studio that does the same thing, where similar sorts of things, where they can take an actual workshop on how to do a particular type of art, ceramics or silk screening or something. Or they can just use it during open hours, just go in there. A lot of our regulars just go in there and get stuff out and go to town. Young people can also volunteer there and do volunteer projects as part of our youth action team and do volunteer projects. We have a peer health education program there where young people can volunteer to be peer health educators.
So talk a little more about the volunteers.
Yeah.
And you said youth can volunteer,
Yep.
but also just in general, how's the volunteering
like
work?
tonight, right, I'm here right now, and there's a youth group, this youth action team. They're meeting right now and talking about ways they can contribute to the community through service. So they'd be doing, like one of the things they're going to talk about tonight is we do 2 times a year, we do a clothing drive at the youth center where we we set up sort of a mini store at the youth center, and we take donations from the community, and we'll have a few hundred people come through on that day, and just a one-day thing. Here's a bunch of clothes that people have donated. You can have 15 items or whatever it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Go for it. And youth volunteers help organize that and help staff it, help collect the donations, that kind of thing. So that'd be an example of something they do. Or they might help plant a community garden over at one of our houses where, to help beautify the community. Those sorts of things. Or they might help. Earlier in the year we had a bike giveaway, and they helped staff the giveaway piece of it and helped know where everybody's bike was and label the tags and move people around and get them to the place where you check your brakes, that kind of thing. So we put them to sort of real practical things, as well as I'll often get input from young people, those particular young people or other young people I know. I'll get input on what would be good programming. Some more behind the scenes types of things. We'll do that. We'll have youth on our board of directors.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have adult volunteers as well. Adult volunteers staff all of our, or not all, but a lot of our programs. They help staff.
What are the skill sets that you're looking for, and what can
volunteer?
people do if they want to get volunteer?
Well, I always tell people, especially when I'm hiring people, it's great. For instance, in my case, music is a great conduit to connect with a young person. It's a great toy and a tool, and you get really great insight into their feelings, and you can have fun together and develop relationships really well through those things. But if you were to ask me, would I rather they have that skill, or can they develop rapport quickly with a kid? I want them to be able to develop rapport with a kid, and sort of being cool would not be the cool way to say it, but sort of to be cool with young people and to be able to be relaxed with them and sort of have a hard to describe and teach ability to be respectful of young people.
So I wouldn't be useless if I have no musical talent.
No, you'd be fine, because a lot of my volunteers, if they can just come into the youth center and hang out and be a good conversationalist and relaxed and ask good questions, and those are the ones that do really well, actually. I do have some that are real specific. They can come in and teach a drum lesson, and that's really useful and great. And but the ones that year in, year out that help the place run are the ones that are just really good with kids.
It mentioned collaborating with other community organizations. Can you talk about how that works and what maybe other organizations you work with or refer to? Yeah,
we've had specific grants with other nonprofits, or we'll have more informal relationships with other nonprofits, like Big Brothers Big Sisters and Neighborhood Center and Mecca and all sorts of places like that in the nonprofit world that are working with young people. We have a long and real productive relationship with the school district as well. One of the things I didn't touch too deeply on yet was we have an academic mentoring program in each of the high schools where we have a UAY worker there who it's a collaboration as well with Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's very much like you hook them up with a Big Brother Big Sister type volunteer who is going to be their sort of mentor on their academics. So besides the UAY worker and their parents, there's this community volunteer who's coming into the school and doing homework with the young person, checking on their power school to see how their grades are coming, maybe checking in with a teacher to see if they're having a sort of problem area to get some information on how to address that. So it's kind of giving this young person 2 or 3 positive adults in their life who are really keeping track of school life. I mean, I was just talking to one of my long-term volunteers, and that's huge. I was a bright enough guy, but I didn't really have that many adults sort of paying attention to the details behind it. So I was capable of sliding and and not keeping on top of things like I should. So that's one area where we use volunteers a lot, and a collaboration that's been long-standing and really positive for us. Is the school's just been outstanding.
Most of the clients that you work with, is that usually they seek you, they find you somehow?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, our work in general is voluntary, like in the sense like people refer themselves, or they don't have to go there, and they might select us, and that's a big advantage in the sense like when I get a young person, they're coming there because they've heard good things about us, or they like what we have to offer in the sense of the arts or something. So I don't have to sell them particularly and spend time like trying to get them to think we're okay people, okay place to spend their time. It really depends on the program, but like if it's an academic program, the school is going to refer that young person because they know a young person who has need and would respond to the type of program we're offering. If it's a counseling referral, that's going to come from the court system. It's going to come from another a doctor or therapist or a parent who's a friend, and somebody just said, "Oh, we're having problems at home and not getting along." So they would just sort of self-refer through this friend or something. So it could be that kind of thing. You know, for the youth center in particular, it's still by and large peer referral is our big one, which is a really good testimonial and a good sign. And I always feel that's a really good sign of health, that young people are telling other young people to come down.
So somebody who's been involved with
exactly.
it talks to their friend.
You know, and so we, you know, with more modern times, of course, we get more social media types of referrals and things like that. But for my particular program, it's still very much like, yeah, come on down to the youth center with me, and we're doing this or that, you know, or they have this studio, you should go down there and check it out, that kind of thing. Yeah, if it's something like I was talking before we were on the air, we have a thing called Community Youth Leadership Program.
Yeah, talk about
very
that.
Similar to like the Adult Youth Leadership Program through the Chamber. In fact, it was affiliated, I was telling you earlier in the past, but those kids would come from a referral from their, say, school counselor, or us sending out information to the principals at all the schools or all the counselors there. So it would just be a direct referral through the school to the parent to UAY, and they learn about a variety of, they come, you know, sort of once a month and learn about community leadership roles. You know, the mayor might come in and talk about what it's like to be mayor and how he got to that point, or I might come in and talk about the arts in the community, or, you know, human services in the community. Or they might have somebody who's an expert on recycling and mulching and that sort of stuff, and come talk about environmental types of things. So they do sort of a curriculum on being a productive leader in the community.
Yeah, that does sound a lot like the adult community leadership
Yeah, it's
program.
really awesome. It's really fun to see. And those are juniors in the community. Yeah.
Any other programs you really want to get into and talk a little more about?
What do I want to talk about? I think I've touched on most everything that I can think of off the top of my head. We do a shoplifters diversion program at the court. So there's little things we have sprinkled in amongst our sort of big efforts as well.
If people do want to get involved, what's the best way to get a hold of you, or is
well,
there
we
something online?
have a good website. That's unitedactionforyouth.org, but you can just Google UAY, it'll come up. If you want to apply to be a volunteer, there's an online application. If you want to donate, there's a nice big donate logo on the front. If you want to learn about our services, it's pretty intuitive. You can learn about all the different ranges of services we have. That's probably the best way. You can, of course, pick up the phone and call 338-7518 and you know, ask for me. That's fine.
Sure.
I'm Stu. I've been there for a while. I can answer most questions. So, yeah.
Other than funding, what do you see as some of your bigger challenges?
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. You know, people always ask me similar questions, like, "Are kids different?" That kind of thing. I don't know if there's. Funding is a big one. I'll just touch on that. Probably the biggest funding struggle we have are sort of unrestricted funds, like the county and places like that have been really great about supporting programs, finding money to pay the heat and administrative support. Those things can be challenges. That kind of stuff is a challenge. Oh boy, what is that? Something besides money.
Do you find trouble with awareness, or again, kind of that ties
sort of
into
people
the
being
question?
Yeah, that would be a good one. Like people knowing accurate information about what we do. Like, oh, is that a place for troubled kids? Is that a place for really good kids? You know, you get sort of all spectrum of misunderstanding about what you do and don't do, and that's partly due to the complexity of our programs. We have lots of different types of programs that interfeed, and so yeah, people can, and that happens with all things in life, with businesses and everything. People can be a little sort of confused about what you do and don't do.
Are there any myths you want to?
Well, that one I'd say, yeah, we work with all kids.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have our range of young people who are struggling and don't have the support systems that they might need. And then we have some kids who are doing fairly well and have decent support systems, and we like to mix those kids up, especially at the youth center, and have them learn from each other and support each other. Yeah, that would be one that I think is important to sort of people be accurate, that we're doing a lot of working with a little bit of everybody.
Yeah. One thing, kind of getting slightly off topic, that I definitely wanted to address, though, we happen to be
talked a bunch about
in the exactly
before we were
in the
on
midst
air.
of some Iowa musician royalty here, but recently inducted into the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes, thank
So
you.
why don't you plug the band a little bit? I've seen you play when I was
in the band Dogs on Skis, and we just we still play a lot. I was just telling you, we've been around 20. I think we're on our 28th year. And the last 10 or so have been our busiest. And last year we were really fortunate to be inducted in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which sounded nice and great at the time. But when I went up, it was really just glorious and really fun. And it was a good 1,000 people there just talking about music all weekend and watching us and other bands play, and it was just really a blast. You can go to dogsonskis.com and see what we're up to. We're always playing. We got 3 shows next weekend, not this weekend, but the weekend after. But we're still around. We just played the downtown show. We were under the parking ramp, unfortunately, but actually it was kind of fun being under the parking ramp. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no problem. I guess before we wrap up, any other things you want to touch on, any things that you feel like you missed or want to dive into a little more? Maybe just about a call as far as people getting involved. Is there a particular need for volunteers right now that you have?
Well, I have a lot coming in because school kind of kicked back in at the university. We're always looking for, I think, as far as volunteers, I think sort of long-term volunteers, especially with the academic programs, sort of being able to commit a full year through not just the school year, but into the summer, and being able to commit that time as a community member is always a really useful thing. And to have sort of a different style of person, somebody who's in the community long term and might have a different experience set to bring to a young person, I think that's a really good thing to have.
That's something that we hear a lot with different organizations, is that, yes, it's great with the university here and Kirkwood, and it brings in a lot of volunteers, but to get the stable ones that are here for more than a semester, a year or 2 years.
Yeah, it's probably common, because it just brings a whole different mindset, Now, I'm going to, of course, talk on both sides of the thing like I do, but the university, for instance, I'm a part of a statewide AmeriCorps collaboration. I supervise our AmeriCorps and train them and oversee it and all that. But I very rarely have trouble finding people to do AmeriCorps. Right now, I have an open position if anybody wants to apply for AmeriCorps, but the other sites in the state might have trouble often because they don't have a large university, right?
Yep.
A block away like I do. So I get access to a lot of really energetic and interesting young adults. So it's been a big plus, actually. But as far as anything, I can't think of anything else particularly touch on right now. I will say the community, to have a local homegrown agency survive 44 years is a testament to the community.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, look, we have problems like any other community, but the people try here, they get involved and try to make things better. And that's always energized me a lot, and especially our local sort of funders have always been really good in the sense they're always willing to listen and try something different if they've got the funds. And so I would thank the community for helping us out all these years and helping us survive.
That's great. Well, Stu, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure talking to you off and on camera
nice
and just chatting about that, and hopefully I'll see you soon. But thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
For PATV, my name is Brian McConnell. And be sure to tune in to your neighborhood network, PATV Channel 18, every Wednesday for the latest episode of Live and Local.